somebody somewhere in the conversation you were not part of said something about you, about your looks, about your body, that is honestly going to leave you speechless. Not because it was mean, not because it was some petty little dig, but because of what it actually meant underneath the words. And that's the whole thing right there. That's what this title is pointing at. They cannot stop talking about your looks, about your body, your beautiful body. And once you hear what was really being said, you're going to understand why you've been feeling this weird shift in your life lately. This sense that something is different, even if you couldn't put your finger on it. So stay with me, because I promise you by the end of this, you are going to see yourself completely differently. Here is what actually happened. Picture a room. Doesn't matter where. Could be a kitchen, table, could be a car with the windows up, could be two people on a walk somewhere with their phones in their pockets for once. And your name came up, not in passing, not as a footnote in some other conversation. You were the whole topic. At first, it started the way these things always start, kind of surface level, kind of casual, the way people talk about anyone. But then something shifted. The longer they talked about you, the more real it goes for them. It got them, for them. The more they let themselves actually said what they were noticing, instead of just thinking it quietly and moving on like they usually do. And that's when it turned into something entirely else. Because what came out of their mouth next wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't the polished, polite version people give them, even when they are being nice to be nice. It was raw. It slipped out before they could stop it. And honestly, it surprised them too, because they didn't realize how strongly they actually felt it turn until they heard themselves say it out loud in real time. You have no idea how many heads turn the second you walk away. They are literally dissecting your look because they are trying to figure out how you make it look so effortless. It's not just about your features. It's about the magnetic energy you radiate without even trying. Believe me, they are talking about you. They are taking mental notes on your style and your vibe right now. They were not talking about some specific feature, some checklist item, some measurement. They were talking about the way you carry yourself, the way your body moves through a room without you even trying to make it move a certain way. The way you don't chase attention, but somehow it still lands on you anyway, like gravity, like something built into the way you exist. And that's the part that actually stopped them mid-sentence. Not perfection, not some magazine cover version of looking at a certain way. It was the effortlessness, the fact that there was nothing performed about it. You've become the main topic of conversation in rooms you haven't even entered yet. They see a version of you that is so much more polished and stunning than what you see in the mirror. There is a specific way you move that makes people feel like they are watching a scene from a movie. Because here's the truth about you that you might not fully see yet. There is something about the way you show up that doesn't feel like everyone else. It feels grounded. It feels real in a way that's almost unsettling to people who are used to everyone performing a version of themselves. And that's what they kept circling back to over and over, like they couldn't quite let it go. People are actually intimidated by how well you pull everything together. They are looking for flaws just to feel bad about themselves, but they cannot find any. Your physical presence is so loud, it's drowning out everything else they were thinking about. They are wondering if you ever even realize the power you hold over a room. They said there is something about your energy that makes everything about your appearance land differently, more attractive, more noticeable, more magnetic, if that's even the right word for it. Because honestly, they were not totally sure how to describe it themselves. It's not something they could fully explain with logic. It is something they just felt or sense in their body when they thought about you. The same way you feel a change in temperature before you consciously register it. To them, you look like you've been handcrafted to perfection. They cannot stop talking about you because you represent a standard they are still trying to reach. If you could hear the way they describe your beauty, you'd never doubt yourself again. You're not just pretty or handsome. You are an experience they were not prepared for. And the more they talked, the more specific it got. The way you look when you are not trying to look like anything at all. The way your expression shifts naturally without forcing it into some performance. The way your confidence shows up, even in the moments when you are not saying a single word. That's the part that caught them off guard, because they suddenly realized this wasn't just about how you physically appear. It was about you being near, how being near you actually feels to another person. And that feeling was stronger than they expected, stronger than they had planned for, if we're being honest. Because people do not usually plan to be affected by someone like that. At some point they said something like, I don't think they even know how they come across. And that part was completely true, because from where you are standing, you don't get to see yourself in the way other people see you. You don't get the outside view. You don't feel the effect you have on a room, because you are the one generating it, not receiving it. But they do. They are on the receiving end, and they see it with total clarity, even when you're standing there thinking you're just existing like anybody else. Imagine you are the lead actor in a high-budget Hollywood blockbuster. Even when the cameras aren't rolling, the crew, the people around you cannot stop whispering about your presence. You don't just walk into a room. You enter the frame. Think of yourself as a movie star who just stepped into a red carpet. You might feel like you are just living your life, but to everyone else, you are the main event. People are not just looking at you, they are studying your star power. They notice the way you carry yourself, the glow in your eyes, and how your physical presence shifts the energy of the room. You have that unput downable quality that makes people stop their own scripts just to watch yours. Once they started saying it out loud, they could not stop, because the second it left their mouth, it stopped being just a private thought floating around in their head. It became real. It became something they had to actually deal with, acknowledge, sit with. And that acknowledgement changed something in how they felt about you going forward. Because when a person finally lets themselves say out loud what they have been noticing about your looks and your body, it deepens instead of fading. It becomes more consistent, more present. It sticks. Yeah, it sticks. This didn't stay as some passing comment that evaporated the moment the conversation ended. It turned into something that followed them home. Something they kept replaying, kept turning over, kept feeling in their chest at random points during the day. Because now it wasn't just a fleeting impression anymore. It was something they'd finally fully admitted to themselves. And once a person admits something like that to themselves, there is no unadmitting it. You cannot just decide to unfeel something like that. You become more aware of it every single time your name comes up. Every single time they see something that reminds them of you. Every single time they picture your face or the way you walked into that room that one time. Because now they are not just noticing you from a distance. They actually feel you. And that's a completely different category of experience. That's where a passing observation about your looks turns into something that has weight, something that moves, something that starts pulling a person toward you instead of just letting them stand there admiring you from a safe distance. Now, here is where I want you to actually feel this instead of just intellectually understanding it, because there is a very specific reason your looks and your body are the topic of conversation right now. And it's bigger than flattery, bigger than a compliment, bigger than some throwaway remark somebody made because they were bored. Your body has been changing. Not necessarily in some dramatic before and after way you'd notice in a photo. I'm talking about the small things. Your posture, the set of your shoulders when you walk into a space instead of shrinking into it. the way your eyes hold steady on someone instead of darting away first, the way your face, your beautiful face, has started to settle into an expression that reads as calm instead of anxious, as sure instead of apologetic. Those are not cosmic changes or cosmetics. Those are signals. And some people pick up on signals whether they consciously register them or not. You wake up some mornings and you don't fully recognize the reflection looking back at you. Not because your face has been rearranged overnight, but because something behind the eyes is different now. There is a steadiness there that wasn't always there. And that steadiness is exactly what people are responding to when they talk about your looks. They are not describing a face. They are describing a shift, transformation, a version of you that has been quietly forming underneath the surface for longer than you probably realized, and is now becoming visible enough that other people are catching it before you have even fully caught it yourself. Think about how strange that actually is for a second. Somebody out there, someone who might not even be that close to you, noticed a change in your presence before you gave yourself credit for it. That's not a coincidence. That's not random. People don't react this strongly to someone unless something real is happening underneath the surface. Something they can feel even if they cannot name it. When somebody says there is something different about them lately, what they're actually reacting to is your nervous system settling, your body relaxing out of years of bracing for judgment, your face softening out of the tension it used to hold just to get through a normal day. And that softening, that settling, reads to other people as presence, as magnetism, as looking like something they cannot quite put their finger on, but absolutely cannot stop noticing. Here's the deeper layer underneath all of this. And I need you to actually sit with it instead of rushing past it. For a long time, you might have trained yourself to expect less attention on your appearance. Not because you don't deserve it, but because being noticed used to come with a cost. Maybe somewhere along the way, being seen too much made you a target, made you self-conscious, made you feel like you had to shrink a little, soften your presence, take up less space so nobody had a reason to comment, to compare you, to judge you, most importantly, to judge you. So you adapted. You learned to occupy your body quietly. You learned to let your looks blend rather than stand out, because standing out used to feel dangerous. But bodies remember. And more than that, bodies eventually stop cooperating with old survival strategies once the danger that created them has passed. That's exactly what's happening to you right now. The version of you that learned to shrink is starting to run out of reasons to keep shrinking. And what's emerging instead is a person whose looks and body are simply reacting to who they actually are underneath all that old caution. That's why people cannot stop talking about you. Not because you suddenly became a different person overnight, but because the person you always were underneath is finally being allowed to show up on the surface. I want you to think about the last time someone complimented you and you immediately brushed it off, made a joke, deflected it, said something like, "Oh, stop," or changed the subject before they could finish the sentence. That reflects that instinct to minimize the moment someone acknowledges your looks or your presence. That's the old programming. That's the part of you that learned somewhere along the way that being fully seen was risky, that it was safer to make yourself smaller than the compliment being offered to you. But here is the thing that's shifting right now in real time, whether you fully feel it or not. That programming is losing its grip. And it's losing its grip because your body, your actual physical presence, is starting to outpace the old fear. You are starting to look like someone your nervous system hasn't fully caught up to yet. That's exactly why the comments are getting more intense, more specific, more surprising, even to people making them. They are not describing the old you, the cautious, folded-in version who used to apologize for existing. They are describing a version of you that's stepping forward. And when someone witnesses a person stepping into themselves like that, it does something to them. Always. It makes them stare a bit too long. It makes them bring you up in conversations you are not even part of. It makes them fumble over their words, trying to explain what exactly it is about you that's different. Because the truth is, they don't have the language for it. Nobody really does. There is no easy way to say your presence has gotten heavier and lighter at the same time. So instead, they just talk about your looks, your body, the way you carry yourself, because that's the closest translation available to them. And listen, this isn't about vanity. This isn't about becoming obsessed with how you look in a mirror or chasing validation from people who happen to notice you. This is about something much more grounded than that. It's about your body finally being allowed to reflect the internal work you have already been doing. Whether you've been doing it on purpose or not, or just by surviving everything you've survived up to this point. Every hard year, every version of yourself you had to leave behind. Every moment you kept going even when you didn't feel like you had it in you. All of that gets written into how a person holds themselves eventually. It shows in the eyes, it shows in the jawline, it shows in the way someone's shoulders sit when they stop bracing for impact. That's what people are picking up on. That's the actual content of the comment. There is something about them. It's a recognition of everything you have been through, landing in your physical presence in a way that other people can literally see, even if they cannot articulate back to you cleanly. Here is the part that might be the hardest to hear, but also the part that changes everything once it lands. The reason this attention, these comments, this sudden wave of people noticing your looks and your body feels almost uncomfortable is because some part of you still isn't used to being witnessed like this. You spent a long time being the person who deflected, who stayed in the background, who let other people have the moment instead of taking it yourself. And now your body is doing something your old habits haven't caught up to yet. It's demanding. It's really demanding to be seen, even while the rest of you is still flinching at the idea of it. That gap between how visible you are becoming and how invisible you are used to being, that's where all this internal noise is coming from. That's why hearing that people are talking about you feels almost too big to hold. It's not because it isn't true. It's because you are still adjusting to a version of reality where you are allowed to take up this much space without apologizing for it. But here is what's actually happening underneath all of that discomfort. And I want this to land clearly. Clearly, you are not becoming someone new. You are becoming someone accurate. The face, the body, the presence that people are reacting to right now, that's not a costume you put on. That's the removal of a costume you were wearing for years. The costume of smallness, the costume of blending in, the costume of making yourself easy to overlook so nobody would have a reason to comment on you, compare you, or come after you even. That costume is coming off piece by piece. And what's underneath is simply you, undiluted. And undiluted you is apparently impossible to stop talking about. Think about how many small moments led here. Yeah. The mornings you kept showing up even when you didn't want to. The version of you that decided somewhere along the way, even quietly, even without announcing it to anyone, that you were done shrinking. The days you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the calm in your own face, because it had been so long since your face got to rest instead of brace. Every one of those moments compounded into the presence you are carrying right now. The one that's making people stop mid-sentence. The one that's making your name come up in conversations you didn't even know were happening. None of that was an accident. And none of it happened overnight, even if it feels sudden from the outside. And here's the thing about a shift like this. It doesn't quietly fade back into the background once people start noticing it. It builds. The more you let yourself actually occupy your own presence instead of shrinking away from the attention, it draws. the more that presence deepens. The comments about your looks, your body, right now are not the peak of this. They are the beginning. Because the version of you that people are noticing today is still just the surface layer of a much bigger shift that's been happening in you for longer than anyone around you realizes, including maybe even yourself, even you. So, here's where I want you to actually take from all of this. More than the compliment, more than the specific words somebody used about your looks or your body in some conversations you were not there for. What matters is what that conversation revealed. It revealed that the work you've been doing under the surface, the healing, the growing, the quiet decision to stop making yourself smaller, all of it is showing. It's visible now in a way it wasn't before. Your body became the messenger of something much bigger than appearance. And that message is simple. You are not hiding anymore, even in the ways you didn't realize you'd been hiding. You don't need anyone's permission to let that keep happening. You don't need to fully understand it before you allow it. All you have to do is stop flinching every time someone notices you. Stop deflecting the moment somebody says something true about how you looks or how you carry yourself, and just let it land instead. Let yourself be seen the way you're already being seen by everyone around you, even the people who haven't said a word about it yet. Because the truth is, this isn't going to fade. It's not some passing wave of attention that dies down next week. This is deepening. It's getting stronger every single day, whether you notice it consciously or not. And the people around you are going to keep talking, keep noticing, keep circling back to the same thing, because what's happening in you is not something that quietly disappears once it starts. It only builds from here. And you, more than anyone else in this story, deserve to actually feel that instead of brushing past it the way you used to. And one last word. Here is something else worth sitting with, because it explains why this particular kind of attention feels so different from the attention you might have gotten in the past. There is a difference between being noticed for something you performed and being noticed for something you simply are. You have probably had moments before where you dressed a certain way, said the right thing, curated an image, and got a reaction for it. That kind of attention feels good for about 5 minutes, 30 minutes, and then it feels hollow because you know it was manufactured. And some quiet part of you is always waiting for the moment people see past it. This is not that. What's happening now is people reacting to something you didn't construct, something you cannot even fully take credit for consciously, because it came from years of living, adjusting, surviving, and slowly letting go of the armor That's why it lands so differently. And that's why it doesn't feel hollow the way manufactured attention does. It feels almost disorienting because there is nothing to perform, nothing to maintain, nothing that could be taken away from you if you stopped trying, because you were never trying in the first place. That's the part that makes people keep coming back to the same observation over and over in different rooms, in different conversations with different words, but the same underlying shock. They are reacting to something real. And real is rare, you know that? Yeah, real is rare enough that it stops people in their tracks. Think, too, about the people who used to overlook you. The ones who never had much to say about your looks or your presence before. If some of those same people are suddenly the ones bringing you up, staring a little longer, softening their tone when your name comes up, that's not a small thing. That's evidence. People who were indifferent don't usually become fixated for no reason. Something shifted enough that their old read on you no longer applies. And their mind is scrambling to update the file, so to speak, because the version of you they filed away years ago doesn't match what's standing in front of them now. That mismatch is uncomfortable for them in a way that makes them talk more, not less. It's the reason your name keeps surfacing in rooms you're not even in. It's not gossip. It's recalibration. And you happen to be the reason for it. So, the next time someone says something about your looks, about your body, the way you walked into a room, or the way your presence changed the temperature of a conversation, don't shrink from it. Don't minimize it. Don't explain it away before it even has a chance to land. Just let it be true, because it is. Yeah, it is. And the fact that people cannot stop talking about you, about it, isn't strange, it isn't accidental, and definitely it isn't something you need to feel uncomfortable about. It's something the outside world finally catching up to who you have already become on the inside.